I'm going to put up a chart right now. Let's go ahead and put the chart up on the screen. I'll give you time to read this. Here's the gist. I wanted to see, it was just a wild goose chase. I wanted to see how it was stacking up. I didn't know what the answers were going to be. But I just thought, let's see who is bringing in the most talent in the SEC. 4 and 5 stars only, according to 24/7 Sports, since Josh Heupel's been here. Now, I went ahead and threw Texas and Oklahoma in here. So this counts them in the Big 12. That's 2 of their years of recruiting. What it does is it shows you the 2024 transfer portal, the 4s and 5s that came in for each school, the 2024 signing class, the 4s and 5s that came in from each school, then 2023 transfers recruiting, 2022 transfers recruiting, and then we tally it up all on the right side. Tennessee is 10th on this list. Okay, they are 9th when it comes to recruiting guys. They are 12th because they don't use the portal very much. They don't. It's one of the good things. They don't lose a lot of guys. They don't have to go out and chase a lot of guys. They're not living the way Lane Kiffin lives. But 9th, 12th, 10th overall, that would not be considered elite recruiting. Now, Ryan Callahan was here last week. He talked about the fact that Tennessee's probably going to wind up with a top 10 class this year. They aided that yesterday by getting Shady Hayward, a safety who immediately moved them up to number 8. So, and this is another guarantee. Tyler, you hadn't been with us long enough. If I do something in recruiting and it says something bad, the day before something good will happen. If I say something good, the day before something bad will happen. So,
speak it into existence.
So this doesn't look good.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about. But you moved up to number 8 yesterday. So maybe this is turning around. My question, though, for you guys, reactions to seeing these numbers when you are 10th in terms of the 4 and 5 stars, and you look at it, 34. This does not take into account people who've left now. This is just the draw.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you're 34. Guys, you're closer to the bottom part of the league than you are that tippy-top Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma group. Bob?
You know, the problem with this is, even when you jump up to number 8, probably Alabama's still ahead of you, Georgia's still ahead of you, Texas is still ahead of you, LSU's still ahead of you. That's the problem you get in the SEC.
Right.
Is I look at Tennessee and I think, hey, they recruit fairly well. They do a pretty good job. And I think the number backs it up. I mean, you're okay, the 40, if you go over here and just start looking at the numbers, you're close. You're close to the bottom part of the league, but you're also close to that middle of the top part of the league too with some of these numbers. The problem gets into the eliteness of the elite.
Right.
And that's where you're coming up short. And I just don't know how you turn that around. I remember a few years ago, the thinking was that NIL money is, that's the key to everything.
Yeah.
It really hadn't changed that much. And it is great to be number 8 in the country in recruiting. I think it's fantastic. But that still leaves you, 5th, 6th in the SEC.
Right.
And that's where your problem is.
Even in their down years, where Paige pointed out, they've been 14th, 17th, and 10th. I don't know the order, but 14th, 17th, and 10th in their 3 recruiting classes. That doesn't count the transfer portal, but they don't do a lot of business there.
Right.
That's not bad. That's good. That's kind of where Tennessee traditionally, you had the one Fulmer run where you were top 5 every year.
You had a Butch Jones year where you were up
top
really,
5
really
once.
high.
Yeah, but for the most part, you're always 10 to 15. That's where and when they hired Derek Dooley, said on this show, you'll wind up 10 to 15. Butch Jones, don't worry about it. You'll be 10 to 15. That's just what Tennessee is. It's harder to get up there in the top 5, and the problem is if you're not in the top 5, you look over a 3-year period, and the other guy has 25 more 5 stars than you do.
Yeah.
Or 4 and 5 stars. Tyler, your thoughts on the chart? Is it nonsense? Is it
No.
throw it out and look at what's happening now with your top 8? You're going to be good. Where are you with this?
This is an indicator of a couple of things. One in particular, I look at 22, the year that Josh had the incredible 11-2 season after they won the Orange Bowl game, and it's remarkable what he was able to do even that particular year where he had 1 transfer portal player, as you pointed out, and you had 7 on the recruiting trail. What it also tells me, though, is we always bring up the phrase blue chip ratio. We always talk about who's cracking the door. Whether you like Bama, Georgia, Texas, the inclusions of Oklahoma, this is showing us something. And the proof is in the pudding. If you want to compete for national championships and if you want to compete on the recruiting trail to be one of the bad guys, the monsters of the SEC, these numbers have to improve. I think it's lazy sometimes when people say this, but it's true in this segment. Sometimes it's just the Jimmies and the Joes. This is showing you right now go look at teams that are ahead of Tennessee. You've seen a lot of success because of their Jimmies and Joes.
You know, I kind of hinted at it in the last place. I think it's X's and O's. Give me an X's and O's coach. I want
Right.
that. But to get to a national championship, if that's your
Yeah.
goal, then it does take some Jimmies and Joes. You
100%.
better have
You've
you
gotta
better
have
have
both ways.
some pro players on your roster.
Yes.
It's harder to get over that last line. I think you can make a playoff with this roster. Absolutely. We're talking about this
100%.
year. They can make the playoff. The problem is, are you going to make
Well,
the Final
if
Four?
you-
Or are you going to do this regularly?
You look at this list, Florida is ahead of you. They've got more Jimmies and Joes.
Now they've had a,
But
guy, a
it's
lot
the-
of guys leave that aren't
But
counted.
it's the
yes.
X's and O's that seem to be where they're tripping up a whole lot. So that's the reason that you do need both of them. And here's the question: if Tennessee, if this instead of a roster of recruiting and transfer portals, say this was Tennessee's schedule.
Oh.
Well, the guys above them, how many of them Tennessee going to be favored of? You've got 3 of them. You're right now not favored against any of them. Okay, then you get down to Florida. Okay, you'll be favored against Florida at home. Would you be favored? I keep saying flavored.
You wouldn't against Ole Miss.
You wouldn't against Ole Miss. Well, you wouldn't be against LSU.
You would be over Missouri, though.
You know, so
The SEC for 17 consecutive years has led the NFL draft in selections. The teams that are ahead of Tennessee on that list John put up, how many of them come from those respective campuses and universities? I bet majority of them do.
The one thing that this chart doesn't take into account at all is finding the right quarterback
yeah.
blows away every other position on the field. Now, people may not like that, but it's absolutely true. If you gave me the choice of you can have 3 5-stars or 1 5-star quarterback, I'll take the 5-star quarterback.
Yes.
I just need the one quarterback. Give me the quarterback. So quarterback can make up a difference in this. If Nico Iamaleava is as special as we think he's going
Yeah.
to be, maybe that is the one Jimmy and Joe
That
who
closes the
catapults you
gap.
from
Yeah.
playoff to national title type thing. So quarterback is partially, or not partially, quarterback is more important than all these other positions. You just look across the history of college football. Those guys that get drafted number 1, they typically win a lot of games in college. All right, when we come back, thank you very much, guys. That was interesting. When we come back, what underdogs on Tennessee's schedule should we be paying attention to? And we'll tell you about the national writer who says you should be paying attention to Chattanooga. Come on back on the Sports Source.